Hey, welcome back to IT Montop. Wanted to go over a cool project I was working on today that might be useful for you. And this is a port scanner in Python. And a port scanner might be useful for several reasons. One of them might be for network security testing. You want to scan for open ports and identify potential vulnerabilities, and then take appropriate measures to secure that network. Also for firewall configuration, or even things like penetration testing, ethical hacking, to see where there might be vulnerabilities in the network that could be exploited by hackers. But today, we're just doing it for educational purposes. So I'm going to break down the code a little bit right here in Python in VS Code, and then we'll run the script and see what comes up. So the first thing we're going to do in line 1, and of course all of this code will be in the GitHub. So the first thing we're going to do in line 1 is import socket, and that allows network communication in Python. And then we'll jump down here to our function scan port. And what scan port, this function is going to do, it's going to take in two parameters right here, the target host and the target port. So the target host is ultimately going to be Google's IP address right here. Again, this is for educational purposes. I'm not trying to harm Google in any way, just trying to scan our target host here. And then the next thing we have is our target port, and that's the port that we want to check. So we have some of our target ports down here, like HTTP and IMAP, DNS, and so we're going to check those ports to see if they're open or closed. The next thing we're going to have here is we're going to create a socket object. So this is how you create a socket object. And with the address family, AFINET, which is going to be IPv4, and then SOCStream, and that's for TCP. And again, that's how you make a socket object. The next thing we're going to do here is we're going to set a timeout for the connection attempt, and this is how we're going to determine if it's really open or closed. So we're setting a timeout for the socket connection, and this one right there, that's going to be 1 second. So this means that if the connection attempt takes longer than 1 second, we're going to raise an exception, and that will handle that, and we'll handle that exception as the port being closed. Maybe we'll do 2 seconds. We'll just do 2 seconds just to be safe. That sounds fun. And after that, then we're going to attempt to connect to the target host and port by doing sock connect. And then what we're going to do is if the connection is successful, we're going to print in the terminal that the target port is open and then close the sock connection. But if this timeout occurs, then the exception is raised, and we're going to treat this like that the target port is closed because we can't connect to it. And then we move on to this next function, which is the main function that I've called it. And this is where we specify our target host, which is Google's IP address, and then we listed some of our target ports right here. So HTTP, HTTPS, and so on and so forth. And then what we have right here is we're going to loop through the target ports. So we're going to loop through these, and then we're going to use the scan port function right there to then determine if these ports are open or not. And yeah, so that is the code right here. And let's see if we can run the script in our terminal. Let's see what comes up when we port scan Google's IP address. So here we go, Python 3 port scanner.py. Okay, so port 80 is open, port 443 is closed. Okay, so port 22 is closed, port 21, SMTP is closed. Okay, but DNS port 53 is open. So that's pretty interesting, and that's cool that we were able to see some of the ports that are open and closed. Probably why port 80 and 53 are still open is those are just required for basic internet functionality. And yeah, so this is just a simple Python script that you guys can use for in your cybersecurity lives and to scan ports and see if they're open or closed. Again, I'll put this code in my GitHub and you can try it for yourself. It's lots of fun, and I will see everybody in the next video.